Hi friends, welcome back to Feed the Sheep podcast. I'm your host, Kelsey Keeling of Balanced Ruminant Grazers. My husband Ryan and I are a scrappy couple working hard to build a sheep flock of Australian whites in south central Kansas. We have 4 small kids and have found ourselves time and time again leaning into God through all the ups and downs of farming. My mission with this podcast is to help you and your family build a profitable sheep flock. Can't wait to bring you along as we learn from others in the sheep industry. Now let's get to talking sheep. Hello friends, I wanted to welcome you to the first official episode of Feed the Sheep podcast. I am your host, Kelsey Keeling. I'm so excited for this podcast. It's been a dream of mine for a while. I guess I have to give a shout out to the inspiration of it, which is Clay Connery's podcast, The Working Cows. I just love all of his interviews, and that was the inspiration for this podcast. So Clay, if you ever watch this, thank you. Thank you for inspiring me. But today's interview, the first interview that I have for you guys, the first few actually, I wanted to start off with talking about the Australian whites that we are doing on our farm. And so this first interview is with Luke Jones. He is the president and helped start the organization, the association here in the United States. And so without further ado, let's go ahead and dive on in. So, Luke, thank you so much for coming on and talking with me tonight. So I just want to first start out with who you are and where you're from and how you got started in sheep.
Sure. So my name is Luke Jones. I'm from West Central Illinois, a little town called Rushville. I guess my whole passion with sheep began back when I was 8 years old. Started as a 4-H project. My grandpa got me involved. He used to as we drove around the countryside, he'd say, "Oh, down this lane, they used to have 8 head of Cheviots," and he'd just go down every road. He used to shear a lot of sheep in the countryside, so always had a passion. And my grandpa just turned 88 years old this year, still alive, still bossing me around with what I need to do, but a lot of wisdom there. So, raised Old Dorset in Suffolk through my 4-H projects. Got tired of handling 2 breeds, so I sold out the Suffolks and just focused on the Pulled Dorsets. Raised those throughout 4-H and then into FFA throughout high school. Started selecting some genetics, more show stock driven, and sold out of that line. When I graduated high school, a guy bought my flock, and they took a bloodline of rams that I was developing, and he placed 3rd in Louisville that year with us. So I was pleased with that for what I'd been developing and hand selecting, and went off to college. And did the whole ag business transfer program. We just didn't have enough land to really make it full time. So that was easier work with your head than your back. So do that. So that's what we did. I sold out of everything. My grandpa got a few hair sheep, some Katahdins from a local producer back in 2009, I guess it was 2008, 2009, somewhere around there, because he got tired of mowing around the buildings. So we got a few hair sheep in, and after I graduated, I moved back close to home, and was kind of interested in what they were delivering and what we had with those, and I thought I'm going to start expanding that. So from about I guess 2012 to 2013, I started at my numbers of hair sheep, and then so I worked in ag retail out of college, and didn't really have a lot of time with the animals. So it wasn't nothing I really focused hard on, but they were still producing, and it was pretty interesting. Got burned out of ag retail and eventually had a chance to go work for a local producer who's doing some things that I really appreciated with cover crops. And he said, "I want cattle on this farm." So I've always wanted to have cattle too. So worked for some cattle producers throughout my history, and bought some cattle, partnered with him on some cattle, still had the sheep on my own. Doing a lot of those things. And I thought, if I'm going to step out on my own, I need to figure out a way to diversify, because the Katahdins, I really liked some attributes of them. There were some good things, but there was just something that was just missing with them. I think I came in at the tail end. I believe there's a lot of good Katahdin lines out there, but I think some of the genetics that I was sourcing you really had to baby them to get them to finish. I don't know if it was more the show stock line or what, but the size really came down, so it was really hard to get that lamb to finish in a proper amount of time that I was looking for. So I thought I need to figure out something to diversify myself. So I started researching hair sheep breeds, and I really like the color white. White stands out to me. So I was looking, I came across the Royal Whites, inquired about those, and that gentleman at the time was actually trying to sell off that line, and I just about bought in on that,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't. I found a lady near me that was raising some Royal Whites, but she really didn't. She wasn't too fond of them, I guess, so it kind of turned me away from them. And it really wasn't a stable breed. It was just pretty much a half blood, if you will, a Dorp Croy.
Okay.
And I don't know, I thought something was different. So I researched, and this was about 2017, 2018, and researched, come across the Australian White and come across Tattykill Farms and sent him an email, said, hey, Ray, you're interested in your breed. What can you tell me about it? Do you have anything here in the United States? And at the time, he replied right back to me. It was Graham replied right back to me. He says, hey, he says, we're actually shipping some genetics over there this year for the first time. Would you be interested in jumping in? I was like, oh, shoot, this is
Yeah.
really starting to blossom more than I was ready for it. I was just
Yes.
kind of the tire kicker at the time, but this is one of those things you better crap or get off the pot if you're going to want to make a move on this. So,
Uh-huh.
um, yeah, so at the same time, I went to a grazing event nearby Dr. Alan Williams was putting on, and I told him, I said, hey, been researching these Australian white sheep. Um, or have you heard about it? He said, I heard about them. I said, well, I've been talking with the developer of the breed. Um, he's offering to ship us some embryos over if we're willing to work. And he says, find me some recipients and let's do it. And he didn't know me from Adam.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
it was one of those things like, holy crap, things are really starting to line up here. Um, so we did, found some good recip ewes, shipped them down to southern Alabama where his farm was at. And
Okay.
I took some of my ewes down there. We did the whole program, um, and decent stick rates. But this whole embryo transfer program thing, I'd like to say it was, it's been an easy road, but it hasn't. We've had a lot more failures than successes. Um, I was set back there in 2021. I had an accident, um, and really put us back. I was in a pretty
Mhm.
severe semi tractor accident. And so at the time we were really building, had things going, but it's just one of those deals that just boom, it hit us. And so we destocked pretty much about
Oh, yeah.
everything. Yeah, we went from about 150 ewes down to about 20 or 30 or so, just because I didn't want the stress of everybody else having to take care of them.
Yeah.
Um, so it was just, and then that fall, I was like, I don't care. We're going to put some embryos in. It was just a lot of things were starting to go backwards. We had a really bad stick rate that fall. So it was like, I can't afford much of this.
Yeah.
I'm talking like an 8% stick rate,
Oh, my goodness.
so, and it's one of those things you think you do everything right, but Mother Nature, she'll humble you every time.
Yeah.
Right. So that's where we're at. And we've been this past couple years, we've been, and I'll get into the association here in a little bit, but we've really been focused on getting the ball rolling, where we feel we need to go. We've had one week round, but most things have been pretty successful.
Mhm.
I've got a group of ewes getting ready to lamb here in early April, the 8th, I believe. And I just had 19 embryos put in, 12 ewes. And I'm going to guess, I think I scanned three of them open. He didn't really have the proper tools to scan them. It was my local vet. He's actually my cousin. And he
Oh,
says, I
okay.
wouldn't even trust if they're open. He says, because I couldn't really tell what that particular is, a goggle type deal.
Oh, okay.
And they're bagging. They're so
Oh, yeah.
feel really good about the numbers we're going to have
Yay.
on this round as well. So, but
Cool.
yeah, it's really it's a family operation. We're diversified row crop operation as well. Plus, I work for Understanding Ag as a consultant as well. So,
Okay.
very busy, a lot of things going on. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay. We'll have to talk about percentage of, or maybe just talk about that really quick. What's the percentage of like stick rate for use? And then do you normally put two in at a time or just one?
So a lot of times, depending on how the straws are packed, sometimes
Mm.
we have odd numbers, sometimes we have even numbers. If the use shows a really good, strong CL, we'll definitely put two in there. But if she just, if she's showing a decent CL, sometimes we'll put one in. Just depends on how well formed she is. A
Mhm.
lot of times it comes down to how many embryos are thawed out. We've
Okay.
had a couple of deals where it shows 7 embryos in there, but we actually thaw out 8. So it's
Okay.
there's some things like that that come into play. But I've, honestly, between singles and twins, it's been about a wash either way. I've seen about the same stick rates on twins as I have singles.
Yeah.
Uh, Preferably, I'd like to see the U raise a single.
Okay.
These Aussie lambs, when they hit the ground, they are, what I've noticed about them is they're such a heavy consumer. You better have a good ewe.
Okay.
And if a ewe's not a real powerful milker, chances are your twin embryos aren't going to perform as well unless you've got her on a really extremely high plane of nutrition. So that to me tells me these Aussies have good maternal and milking skills
Yeah.
bred into them, but these lambs are that heavy of consumers. So,
Uh-huh. Okay.
but yeah, they'll drain a ewe if she's not on very good condition.
Yeah. Yeah. Interesting. Okay. Yeah. Can you go into about how the AAWSBA got started and bringing the first set of embryos? You guys just brought them over last year, was it?
Yep.
20. Yeah. So
Yep.
go into that.
Yeah. So COVID kind of put a wrinkle in some of that.
Yeah.
There's some paperwork issues. We had the tank actually land here. There was a couple scratches on the paper that weren't right. They shipped it back, and we had to ship it back over here again. So it's been a racket there. But yeah, I mean, from early on, I was working. I guess 2018, 2019. My first lambs hit around 2019, and so I was involved with that a little bit. There was an association being formed at the time. Um, we were working along with that. Some things happened, and I'm not going to dive into it. But Graham pretty much told me, you know, I want to see this breed successfully in the United States.
Mm.
And he says he's really hinting at it. He kind of kept Sonia and David and I together throughout this whole process
Oh,
because they
really?
were all inquiring. I was buying some rams, picking up some rams for Sonia, and David was interested. So I was really trying to work, but I guess Graham was kind of playing his pieces without us really even knowing. I mean, he kept us together,
Uh-huh.
kept us interested, and kept us focused on the breed. And he says, "You guys need to figure out something yourself." He says, "I want to see the breed successful. Um, I like what your guys' focus and vision is." He says he thinks we've got the right passion for the breed, and he says essentially told us. I asked him, I said, "Do you think we need to start another association?" He says, "Do it because you've got full support."
Yeah.
So I was real hesitant on that. I didn't want to do it. It was the last thing I really wanted to do, and it's been a long road to get this whole thing paved. I mean, but I guess the one thing that gives me confidence is, we've got Tatty Keel and Graham's endorsement as being the association of choice for the Australian White, but also the original American or the original Australian White Sheep Breeders Association in Australia. They support us.
Uh-huh.
We've actually utilized, we've had permission to utilize their constitution and bylaws and breed standards to develop ours, which to me should give producers here in the States security that we're doing things the way this breed has been developed and how it's going to continue to run. We're not going to spur off anything. That's our focus is the
Yeah.
Australian White.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really was something we didn't want to have to do, but it was kind of almost an ultimatum that you guys need to figure this out yourself. You won't have no support if you go the other way from
Mm-hmm.
us. So
Yeah.
one of those deals is like, we're here with the Australian White. We want to see this thing successful. That's pretty much why would we go any other way? When we got somebody that's telling us they're going to support us, we're going to do it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's what I like. Every time you guys are like have questions or anything, you go back to like Graham's reference of what he likes in a sheep. And like you always refer back to that, even on your guys' website and stuff. It's like this is what he developed the breed for, this is what he's looking for. So
yep. And early on, I mean, since the early stages, Graham's always been improving and he's still improving the breed. There's still some things he's wanting to improve upon, but early on, I think, when producers here were used to those high number birth rates of your hair sheep, your large litter sheep, if you will, the Barbados, that whole sort of thing, the Katahdins, he felt that you give up something for what you gain, right? So you might have more heads born per ewe, but in comparison to carcass on the rail, I think you give something up.
mhm.
You might have extremely good parasite tolerance, but you're going to give something up. I mean, if I look at some of these St. Croix, some of the Barbados, things like that, yeah, they might be highly parasite tolerant, but there's no carcass to them. So you're gaining this, but what are you giving up on the other side? So you got to weigh out those pros and cons, and that's for each producer to really weigh out. But
Yeah.
we feel the other thing that was really kind of, I guess, down talked about the breed, or one of the negatives was they just didn't have the lambs.
Mhm.
They were talking like a 1.4 to 1.5 average. Sheep only has two nipples, so I mean, why do we want to press for these two plus, there's threes. Everybody's wanting these threes. You might have one good lamb, one average lamb, and then one bummer lamb. I've
Yeah.
really struggled to find ewes that will consistently wean off, and those lambs will strongly finish well on the rail.
Uh,
They won't without a lot of inputs,
I
from
see.
what I've seen. Um, so the Aussies, and Graham's been building that into it. The multiple bursts is increasing,
Oh,
but he doesn't want it to increase too high. Um,
I see.
that ability to potentially wean off and breed back sooner, and do that almost accelerated lambing plan with this breed is there, because they condition out so easily.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and they just seem to be aseasonal breeders. I mean, they should breed if conditions are right,
Mm-hmm.
which that's going to pick up for that lack of high number of litter lambs, if you will.
Yeah, yeah. That's one of the questions that I always get asked. I had that written down. People are like, well, I thought they were a terminal breed and like, or are they actually maternal? So like that, you know.
Yeah. So I mean, this is a self-replacing breed. The way it was developed is you should be able to, retain back and keep going.
Okay.
Anything with terminal, you could use them as terminal. The F1s, anytime you throw an Aussie Ram over a Katahdin or whatever, they're going to stamp those lambs. You're going to have an Aussie lick those lambs. So that's to me, they got a strong characteristics of the breed,
Uh-huh.
which I appreciate. The head shape, the way they correct their feet. He's done a really good job in developing this breed. So I don't want to feel like I need to recreate something.
Yeah.
I'm bringing him here for the reason of they're a darn good sheep as is.
Yeah.
Meat quality. Once you start crossing up and diluting and bringing in other breeds, you start to diminish that meat quality. I'm not saying it's going to be bad lamb, but if you're going to talk fat melting point, the quality of fat, it's going to be diluted out. Hair lamb is generally pretty mild compared to wool lamb. I don't care what breed it is, uh, but it's the quality of fat that this breed brings to the table. That once you cross it up, you're going to start diluting that, and you're just going to have to continue to use an Aussie on top of that to get it influenced back in.
Okay.
But that's where we're not against anybody using an Aussie Ram on their own stock that they have right now instead of selling off the flock just to buy in. Use what you've got. We're not going to tell anybody, to sell off and use purely Australian whites. That's my focus is to develop as good a quality Aussie whites as I can, but I've also got my commercial flock that I'm using for just straight commercial lambs.
Yeah,
So
yeah, yeah. As a new sheep producer, I like that idea. I've heard of a lot of people doing that. You have your registered flock and then you have your commercial flock too. But
yeah,
that's interesting.
that's
And
our focus is to let people decide what they want to do.
yeah,
Uh, we don't want to pigeonhole this breed. We want to get it out there on the farms and let people experience it because that's the only way they're going to see the positive impact from them.
yeah,
If you think the terminal side of it's powerful, wait till you see what a good true pure line of Aussie whites can bring to the table.
yeah, yeah. We're excited for that. We'll have a bunch of F1s on the ground here in May and
Good.
we love our F1s for sure.
Yeah.
Excited for the progress as it goes, as we breed up.
What I've
Um,
noticed on the F1s over a Katahdin is you'll square up that hip way more,
okay, okay.
compared to, it'd almost be like here's how your Katahdin lambs would look. I mean,
Uh,
they're gonna really square up that hip on your F1s, and that's what I really like. So you're getting some carrying capacity there.
okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, I definitely noticed that. Um, so you guys brought your first set of embryos over last year. And are those almost, I know you had some still available, or some available, or are they almost gone?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those deals. We've only got about 60 left.
Yep.
We've got a couple potential folks that they could clean those up in one call tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's one of those deals. Yeah, they're here, uh, but for how long I don't know.
Yeah,
I've got a group of empty recip ewes I'm thinking about prepping back up and shipping back out, and maybe offering some scanned in ewes again or something like that. But um, yeah, I mean,
yeah,
we've got a few available, but I don't know how long they're going to last. And I think we're down to about 3 different sire genetics that are
okay.
available in that group. So it's
How,
starting to diminish.
how many sire genetics came over last year?
It's 6 different sires.
Oh, okay, okay. So we only had 2 different sires in ours, so I
Yeah,
didn't know.
yeah,
Okay,
we've got a 2000 genetic line that it was some 2000 genetic ewes.
Okay.
Those lambs are looking really good. And of course, we've got the 1910 ram, um, who was very heavily used in developing in some other countries that they'd shipped some exports or embryos to. So a very highly sought after ram for shipping embryos, used a lot in that program. But we feel in the future with what Graham, he's going to be having a facility on his farm now that's uh, government approved to ship and move genetics through his own operation there. So it'll expedite things for us.
Yeah.
And how it was managed prior, he'd ship a lot of stuff to Western Australia and have it done there. So he wasn't shipping his absolute best over there, right? So now we feel like moving forward, it's going to be accelerated even more. So
Cool, cool. Yeah, that'll be good. Are you guys planning on still getting new genetics from him or eventually starting to pull from your foals that you have?
So, based off how our association is set up, our beliefs, we want to continue to keep bringing in some new genetics
Okay.
as it's needed,
Hmm.
and as we can to keep influencing these newest and latest genetics that he's developing with this breed. But as we get enough use here, we might not have to do as much embryo transfer. Maybe we can just get a big batch of semen shipped over and go that way. So that's really our hope. Believe me, I'm as old school, and I'm as natural as possible. So doing embryo transfer and that kind of work is against every bone in my body, but I see there's some benefits to it. But it's something that I really don't like to have to do.
Uh-huh.
But I think it's something that's probably been underutilized a lot here for the sheep industry. Luckily, we're working with some pretty good companies that are helping us get the ball rolling properly. And seems like we're having a little bit more success how we're doing things there. So it makes it a little easier pill to swallow.
Yeah, yeah. I could not believe as a new person doing embryo transfer how many hoops there were. I was like, oh, they're like cattle. It'll be fine. Like we'll
Yeah.
just do it on the farm. It's okay. No, not at all. It's like, oh.
Yeah, I've actually one of my buildings I built in a climate controlled embryo transfer room.
Really?
It was an old hog barn, but concrete floor, so I was able to frame up. So it's one of my main lambing barn in the dead of winter, um, and otherwise it just sits empty throughout the rest of the year.
Okay.
But and I don't do a lot of winter lambing either. It's very very slim that I do any. I might like to try to lamb out on pasture for our own operation, but depends on the context of what we're doing and situations. I lambed some out in December this year that were embryo use, um, but my other groups of embryos will be April May drop. So
Okay. Okay. Cool. Yeah, ours are due April 8th as well. So
okay,
I'm excited to see them. Well, maybe I'll be calling you and like, okay, do you have any?
yeah, it's I don't take it lightly what we're doing, and I mean you spend a lot of effort and energy making sure it happens
Yeah.
properly. And I don't like that fact of it, but we've got so much time invested in it and dollars invested in it that for right now, it's worth it because when you see these lambs hit the ground and how they grow, they just, it's not like they're real. I mean, they're real sheep. I mean, they perform like sheep should perform. And it's exciting to see the potential they can bring to the sheep industry here.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Um, can you talk a little bit about comparing them? You've already touched on that, but comparing them to other hair sheep breeds.
Yep.
So like, because a lot of people will try to compare, a Katahdin to like a Dorper. Like, there's a big difference there, and like an Australian White to a Dorper. What?
Yeah. So to me, they are how they were developed. I mean, you're talking developed in Australia, range country,
Mhm.
large areas. So that comes back to balance. How well is the animal balanced from a structural standpoint? And Graham really hit the nail on the head with how he has properly balanced these: the leg structure, the foot structure, um, the dark pigmentation where needed. I mean, things like that. When I see some Dorpers, I mean, they're wide, they're stout, but you'd be lucky if you could stand a book up underneath them. I mean, they're just not a balanced animal,
Mhm.
uh, from what I've seen a lot of times. And a lot of times we go for these extremes one way or the other. If you go walk through, I was just down in Louisville last fall, walking through to pick up some gates and stuff. And I was walking through, I was like, oh my God, we have got this looked like a bag of Jelly Belly jelly beans down here. I mean, there was just everything,
Mm.
huge animals. I'm just like, we have gotten so far out of what production animals are and well balanced. I mean, it's because they're babied, right? And these animals are meant to go out and do it well on rough situations. I mean, I've seen them; they will be pig fat compared to some of my Katahdin crosses
Mhm.
um, on very lackluster forage. They'll be on multiple rows while the Katahdins are out eating the clover. I mean, it's crazy to watch those grazing instincts. They group up together more so. I mean, they'll almost segregate themselves. If you run Aussies with some Katahdins, they'll almost it's crazy to watch how they'll go graze in certain areas, and the Katahdin crosses will be. And I'm not picking on Katahdins, but that's just what I've got. Um, they'll be grazing over on the better quality forage. The others will be over on what you think is absolute junk, and they'll be picked at. So it's pretty interesting to see how well adapted they are to any situation and what they can get by on forage wise. You
Yeah.
can almost over if you have too good a forage, they'll be loose, and you can almost go backwards that way. So
Right.
um, that's the thing I like about it. Yeah,
Yeah. I'll have to, I mean, we're pretty rough on.
you guys have been through a pretty rough dry spell out there for the last few years, so I'm sure good thing about out west is it seems like the nutrient density of those plants still overcomes. We're washy here in the Midwest.
Okay.
They say it's easier to take an animal from the Midwest and move it west than it is from the West to move it to the Midwest because of that forage quality difference.
Yeah.
So um, you guys are you guys have that luxury even though you have been dry. So it'd be interesting to see how your animals do perform on the forages after you've been through that dry spell.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
The worst, the
Um,
worst trait about the Aussie whites, I'll let everybody know, is they lay like they're dead. I mean, that is,
oh,
I'm not kidding you. It's been the biggest um, heart stop moment ever. You'll walk out there and you'll see a lamb just laying like it's absolutely dead. And you can almost go up there and nudge it with your foot until it finally wakes up and it looks up at you like, excuse me, I'm trying to nap here. They are so lax, even
yeah.
out in pasture. They just, that's the worst trait about them.
I've noticed that they're very friendly and like, do you notice them being crazy at all?
No, you always got seems like
Oh,
one that's a
wow.
little more high
Yeah.
headed than anything, but the majority of them, their docility is second to none. I mean,
Yeah.
it's that Texel coming out of them. I think Texels are pretty calm, cool, collect type breed.
Mhm.
Um, I think that's where that's coming in at. But yeah, they're easy to work with. They're easy to move.
Yeah.
Uh, their temperament is different, in
Yeah.
my opinion.
Definitely. Definitely. Um, what about like the future of the breed, like where you see them going in the US, the Australian white?
Yeah.
Like, what's the
So we're
association?
gonna. So yeah, we have since I guess we worked on this association for about 2 years before we even got it really rolling. We finally released it in 2022. Um, Actually, we formed it in 2022, but we didn't release it until 2023. Yes. So it was a long process, making sure. I mean, it was one of those things we worked through it all. We talk about it and we table it. We wouldn't even like let's just see how things play out. Let's just give it a chance. But it's just one of those things. It's like it was just pretty much smacked me upside the head. Like just get it done. This is what you need to do it and go. Um, but we've had some good growth the last couple months. People have been calling us. They appreciate our openness about the breed, our focus with the breed, and our commitment to holding the breed standards as true as possible. You're
Mhm.
always going to have somebody that's going to cowboy up and do their own thing with something. I mean, that's just what it is. But our goal is to just show, hey, look back here, this association, they've got what Aussie whites are supposed to be, what they're supposed to look like. What you did with them, oh well, that was your call.
Mhm.
But we've got the true stuff right here. So that's our focus. We want to continue to grow as naturally as possible. I mean, if we get 1 to 2 members a month, that's great. We don't want to be a rush full. We want people to understand that this is a choice for them to make. We don't want to force them or hang a carrot over their head that we're the association to come to. It's their call to make. It's a gut call, in our opinion. Um, we'll lay our cards on the table. What our focus is. We feel that this breed has a lot of potential to check all the boxes for any operation, whether they're out west, north, south, east. It doesn't matter. Um, you know, this breed was developed forage based. I think that's where they need to be placed. But if somebody's in a feedlot operation, use what tools you have. We're not going to tell anybody how they need to raise their sheep. I know that's been thrown out there before. Somebody says, "Well, we've been told you guys are grass fed only." I'm like, no. I mean,
Yeah. No, no,
they're
no.
a ruminant. We feel like they should perform on forage, but
Yeah.
we're going to let them out and be sheep. But if you feel like your confinement or a dry lot operation, it works for you,
Yeah.
use it. I think they're going to perform well. I mean, they'll do very well
Hmm.
on mixed rations, but do what you want to do with them.
Yeah.
We're going to continue to, luckily David and Sonny and myself, how we were the three founders of this association, but we tell everybody everybody that joins, it's your association too. We just had a call here last week to go over registry and stuff like that. And we got a lot of input from those that were on the call about how they want to see things implemented, and we're taking it to heart and we're making those changes and things like that because it's everybody's breed in this
Yeah.
association. So we feel this breed can check a lot of boxes for any operation. The meat quality is second to none. Our goal is just to get numbers here and keep growing, get good quality sheep developed here, and then maybe we can start doing some pooling of meat, whether it's direct to consumer, whether it's filling in some restaurant chains, whatever. We got to have the numbers here before we can really consistently do that,
Yeah.
and make sure we've got consistent interest from those restaurant chains and things like that. But I think the potential's there. I mean, once you taste this lamb, it'll rival beef. It cooks up easily. Our
Hmm.
kids love it. We eat lamb pretty frequently. Um, our kids don't know any different, really. I mean,
Yeah.
they don't.
Yeah.
They eat it. They love it.
Ours
And
ate,
we,
ours ate some with ketchup the other day, and I was like, "Oh,
oh,
that's terrible. I feel so
hey,
bad."
you can always wean them off that. That's the
Yeah.
ketchup phase, right? But um, you can get somebody new that's never had lamb before, cook it, and they're not going to get that off-putting smell. Sometimes it can happen. It's a very mild, enjoyable protein to consume. So
Uh,
we feel that the breed, we're going to continue to do what we feel is best for the breed, in conjunction with the developer and the original association in Australia.
mhm.
Uh, we will take advice from them to continue to grow. Like I say, we're going to grow as we grow. We're not going to force this, because we want people to um, understand our vision here to make this the most successful breed here in the United States, especially with how the wool industry is going. We've been getting a lot of calls from some large flocks out west,
All right.
starting to get out of the wool industry, and they're looking at least to do a terminal cross there to get some influence. You're talking about some dry lot guys that don't want those wool-based ewes in their dry lots anymore, just because of the labor and the essential waste of money. But you know, that's not to knock wool, because the way I look at it, I'm not naive enough to think wool won't come back with some kind of vengeance and have some real profit to it. Very well could. I think they're already starting to find some alternative uses for wool that are really impactful. But um, wool breeds might make a comeback. But
Yeah.
as Graham said, we bred the wool into the sheep. It's a secondary um, energy drag. I would much rather that be focused on meat.
Yeah.
Um, True sheep were actually hair sheep to begin with. So,
Okay. I didn't know that. That's
yep,
interesting. Um, One of the last questions I have for you was, so I always get asked, where can I get one? They're
yep.
like, where are they? I'm like, I know there's embryos. I know a few of them, but what?
There's some out there. I mean, between our association and, like I said, there is another association. They were the first association, but I tell folks we are the only association endorsed and backed by the original breed developer and the original association. So, um, there are options out there. That's for each producer to decide who they want to do business with.
Yeah.
Um, I feel we've got our positives, and I'm sure they feel they've got their positives, but that's for each person to weigh those out. We will have some stuff for sale, but we're trying to keep it. Those that are interested in the breed through our association, we're actually, that was part of our call, was to almost have like a member portal, to where we can offer stuff within our community, folks that are wanting to do right by the breed, make sure they get first chance at it.
Mm.
So I understand that. I don't want to go out there and just throw it out on the market, and when
Yeah.
somebody that I know that's wanting to get into this breed for the right reasons needs that. So we're going to focus on that. So if anybody's interested, they can look up our website, American Australian White Sheep Breeders Association. We should be getting some of that put in. I just talked to our web developer here sent her an email today to see what we can do to make that happen. But I think that's a good positive way. Um, I'm not a I don't like to push stuff on Facebook. I don't think it's very.
Yeah.
Um, I used to, but anymore it's just like there's so much spam and stuff on there. Um, even some of the Australian white Facebook pages, it's just full of spam.
Oh.
So we stay away from that. So we feel like if we go back to old school to maybe developing a web platform
Hmm.
interest and portal or I don't want to say blog forum, if you will, that people can say within our community, hey, here's what I've got. Does somebody need this? And we even feel the mature Rams. Um, they're very, very, I'll just say it, they're horned up. I mean, they will cover an old or mature Ram will. I think Sonya was saying she had 120 ewes. She used a 3-year-old Ram on, and she had 2 or 3 open
Hmm.
out of that within a 3-week window.
Wow.
So they'll cover, and that was one single ram covered that. So their libido is there. So we feel the longevity of this breed because of how well they're balanced, how well they've been developed. Once you buy a ram, it's not just a one and done type deal. They should be able to last you for a
Yeah.
while. And if somebody else needs that ram, there should be confidence, through some testing, BSEs, things like that, um, to make sure people know they're getting something that's very, very good still to be able to use in their own flock. So
Yeah.
um,
Definitely.
I guess if anybody has interest in it, like I say, embryos are could be gone tomorrow.
Yeah.
But between all of us, um, we had a pretty good slug of embryos brought in. We had overall pretty good sticks for the most part. We should have some numbers available.
Hmm.
I think next year will be a lot different story as far as what's available. This year will be primarily Rams, a few ewes, but primarily Rams will be available this year. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, and then the last thing I wanted you to just touch on was what resource, if somebody wants to look farther into the breed, the AAWSBA, where can they find out more information about them? I know you guys have a couple webinars that you guys have done,
Yep.
one with Tati Keel, with Graham. You have your contact page. Do you have an email list with the website?
So that was the other thing we've got to get implemented. We want like a breeder directory put in there, so folks can at least kind of geographically see who's in their area.
Mm-hmm.
We've had interest anywhere from Delaware to Hawaii,
Oh, wow.
Puerto Rico to up in Canada. So I mean, we've had folks reach out to us, but it's just a matter of the logistics right now.
Yeah.
So we're going to work on getting that directory done. For right now, Sonny and David and myself, our contact information is on there.
Okay.
Before we do a breeder directory on there, we're going to make sure we pass it out to our members to see what information they want put out there. If they want their phone numbers or email or both put out there, because we don't want to have a big. We already get enough spam calls throughout the day for,
Oh,
for
gosh.
car insurance, warranties, and all that good stuff. So we don't want to throw anybody else's information out there unless they approve of that. So we've got our website, we've got our Facebook page. If you're more interested in the breed, obviously follow Tatty Keel on their website. Um, Look up America or the Australian White Sheep Breeders Association in Australia. That's the original association, and any other producer that falls under their membership level
Oh, yeah.
would be very good. I mean, just look up some of those Camden Valley, um, Red Tank. There's tons of them over there.
Oh my goodness. I
Just
follow some of those on Facebook. They are beautiful sheep. And then they start lambing. I'm like, oh,
Yeah, Fish Creek Farm. There's some others I can think of over there, but look at those sheep
yeah.
before you buy anything here in the States. We've
Yeah.
seen some things go out that we're not supporting or selling any half blood, 3/4 blood rams.
Yeah.
Uh, Matter of fact, it's a ram lamb can't even be registered until it's an F7
Oh, really?
in our breed up program because we want
Oh,
to whittle out and wean away any
yeah.
outlying traits that could be in there. We don't think that it's a reliable enough cross to um, consider it an Australian white. We're going to take it far, just to weed out anything that could have gone if somebody transfers in some genetics from us from
Okay.
another way. We want to make sure that we have a chance to make sure it's been stamped with a true Aussie ram over the top.
Uh-huh.
And we've got breed standards in there as far as registration, how that all plays out. I mean, we are everything in our association has to be a descendant of Tatty Keel through embryo transfer.
Yeah.
is what we're looking, and to give people some security of what they're getting. Um, if anybody's wanting to transfer in, we will evaluate the papers and what breeding lines that animal has. Um, but to me, that should give people confidence that we're being picky for a reason.
Yeah.
We want the breed to be successful, um, and we don't want any dilution coming in.
Definitely, definitely. Are your breed standards or your registration, am I saying that right? On the website?
Yep, and we're also through associated registries. That's who we will register animals through.
Okay.
Um, that was a big holdup for us. To be honest with you, we didn't want to use them because that's who the other association was using. We didn't want any confusion, so we were looking at buying our own program in. But then it's just like, we all have a life to live and jobs to do and things like that. And we've been putting a lot of work and effort into getting this thing going. Anyways, we're like, we need to find somebody to handle this for us, and it eliminates any confusion or errors on our ends, or personal issues that might arise. So we wanted a third party to handle that, and we reached out to associated registries, and they actually told us that they were no longer handling the other associations. So it was like, great, you've got us now. But now they're carrying them again, so we kind of raised a stink about that. So they assured us that they're going to have two separate people handle each account, so there shouldn't be any communication errors. But Associated Registry does have breed standards and registration papers on their page. If somebody wants to look up that information, it's there,
Cool.
and there's stuff on our website as well. So
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. Anything else that you want to touch on before?
No, I appreciate you letting us have the opportunity to talk about the breed. We're excited about it. It's been a long
Yeah.
process. We thought about doing trade shows and things like that, but it's like, you know, is it really true interest there? That's why we do the webinars. We want to put some educational information out there. We like to say it's not a me game, it's a we game. We want
Yeah.
everybody to feel the benefit of what we're doing, feel included with what we're doing. This isn't we're in it for the long run. It's a journey for us. It's no destination. It's a journey. We're in it for the long haul. This is a generational thing for me, setting this up for my kids to continue on with. So that's the future I see with this breed. And I think it definitely has the potential with it. And the way Graham has set it up, he's in it for the long haul too.
Yeah.
I just see so many great things with the breed. Um, I get excited every year when lambing time comes, just because it's like, hey, here's the next wave coming on. So,
Yeah.
hopefully by this summer, if somebody's interested, maybe we can have some farm tours and things like that. We're actually setting up some trials on our row crop operation. We're going to do some alley cropping, if you will, 6 rows of corn, 15 feet of grazed strips. So we're going to be doing alternating strips throughout some fields, grazing cover crops, interseeding crops. So we're going to do some field events here on our own operation. We'll have some Aussies in there grazing along with our other commercial lambs. So if anybody's, they can follow myself on Facebook at Luke Jones on Facebook, or our farm is Impact Family Farms on Facebook.
Okay.
We'll post some events on there. But yeah, other than that, appreciate the opportunity to talk about the breed a little bit, and wish you well in your own lambing.
Yeah, thank you. Well, thank you from me, and I think everybody else, for you, Sonia and David, putting in the hard work to get the association going. We're just so excited to what we've seen so far, and excited for the future. So
yeah, like Sonia, we've been too stubborn on this whole thing that we made it this far, so we might as well finish it out. So
yeah.
Like I say, if we didn't feel the breed was worth it, we wouldn't have done it. But we feel there's some positives, and we just want to we want to be the solid ground for this breed here in the United States, and that's our focus. Common thread, we're producers ourselves, and we want to see everybody else successful as well.
Yeah. Perfect. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
You betcha. Appreciate you having me on again.
Well, I hope that you guys enjoyed that interview with Luke. Again, I'm just so thankful that he was able to come on the podcast and take some time to talk to us and give you guys some great information on the Australian whites. Be sure that you check out the links in the description box or in the show notes. I will leave all of those that we talked about during the interview. But If you aren't already, please be sure that you subscribe. Please share this interview with someone if you would. That's the best way to share this podcast and get it out to people and let more people know about it. And it helps me out a lot. And we will see you guys in the next episode. Thank you again. Bye.